Good evening, dear educators. On behalf of Priti Prakashan Private Limited, I, Dr. Farzana Shakil Ali, welcome you all to this learning journey with Urja Pedagogy Enhancement Program, an initiative of Priti Prakashan Private Limited. Kriti Prakashan pays tribute to all gurus on the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima today for being the guiding light and showing the right path in life. So happy Guru Purnima to all of you. Guru always helps one to get the knowledge and stands beside the students when they have problems. So, before we start, I will give a brief introduction of Kriti Prakashan and what we do and what more is there in our vision statement. Kriti Prakashan Private Limited is a Lucknow based publishing company which began its operation in the year 2000. Having firm faith in its motto, shaping nations through education, the company has spread its wings of knowledge pan India and abroad during its journey of 21 glorious years. Apart from publishing quality content for children, our vision statement also includes updation of teachers and educators by empowering them through capacity building workshops twice a year. Our initiative, Urja Pedagogy Enhancement Program, focuses on empowering educators in teaching pedagogies in alignment with New Education Policy 2020, Learning Outcomes by NCERT, and Bloom's Taxonomy. We are glad to announce the onset of our Urja training series for the session 2021 and 22. And today we have capacity building workshop on teaching pedagogy on how to teach environmental science to the primary students, especially of classes 1 and 2. I strongly believe that if you want your students to learn, then everyone in the school must continue to learn. Today we have with us Mrs. Rashmi Singh, Principal Siddhant World School, Gomti Nagar, Lucknow, who will be sharing her experience in teaching environmental science in the most effective manner and in experiential form with lots of hands-on activities. We welcome you on board, Dr. Rashmi Singh, and we look forward to an enriching session from your end. Thank you for joining and sparing your time to train our teachers who are teaching environmental science for classes 1 and 2. Over to you, Rashmi ma'am.
Thank you, Prasanna ma'am. And I welcome all the educationists and all the teachers who took out time to attend this webinar. And I salute these teachers because they are handling the most tender and the most beautiful children of very tender and of beautiful age. Sorry. So today we'll start with the pedagogy of teaching EVS and teaching EVS to classes 1 and 2. So I'll start with the introduction. What is EVS? EVS Environmental Studies, EVS Environmental Science, or ecology. Like, this is what we comprehend and that is what we understand by the word EVS. But do we really know what is the importance and what is the emphasis and what is the impact that EVS has on the lives of our today's generation and of the future generation? So we are living in an era of knowledge explosion. Now, what are we talking about in terms of knowledge explosion? Means there's so many advancements in science, technology that is taking over. And things are being done in favor of the environment so that we are in the race for a sustainable development. So knowledge explosion means we have to prepare our children for a world, for an environment, for an earth that is that is good for them and that is healthy for them, so that they are that so that we are able to give something to the future generation. Now in knowledge explosion, if we talk about, like, we have so many new advancements, like the hyperloop, like the space tech, which are coming up. And why are they coming up? Because so that we can reduce the pollution, reduce the burden on our planet earth. So now I'll just start. This was a brief introduction that I'm going to do. Now we live in an era of knowledge explosion. In order for a child to acquire certain skills of learning, to learn, emphasis has to be laid on appropriate opportunities, laying emphasis on the process of learning. That means our learning process should be in such a way that we are able to involve children, and basically our aim should be that we should be able to develop their sensitivity towards their environment. Now, EVS learning provides for an opportunity for children to explore, investigate, and develop an understanding of the natural, social, human, and cultural dimensions of the local and wider environments. Like, these are the basic years on which we should be very, very very, very sensitive towards how to teach these children about EVS. And these are the most significant years of learning in which we should tell them how to groom themselves for the future years. Now, we have our things like the children are living in the surroundings in which the children are living. That is how they need to understand what is their surrounding, how should they understand, how should they evaluate things, what they are doing or what their elders are doing. Now this area of learning enables children to grow up and live as a caring and informed members of a global community. So that is what I'm trying to say. In order to make our children uh, like uh, uh, careful and caring about our environment, we need to teach them EVS from the very initial years on a very serious note. Now, keeping in view the significance of the subject, EVS has been kept as one of the curricular areas in private primary classes. Now, since we all are aware that EVS, like, we are not teaching them science. We are teaching them science in classes 1 and 2, but definitely EVS is a combination of science and social sciences, right? So we are teaching them a little bit about the science part and a little about the social sciences part. Now we come to the new education policy, and I think you all must have heard about the new education policy. According to the new education policy, the 3 plus 2 years are the most delicate and the most sensitive of all the learning years. So we need to provide them with the best of the knowledge, with the best of the education, with the best of the hands-on activity, so that they are able to understand the subject that they are learning. Now, according to the NEP to 2020, the curriculum and pedagogy in schools should be holistic, integrated, inclusive, enjoyable, and engaging. Now, when we try to understand the meaning of holistic, now what do you understand by holistic? Holistic means something we have to take as a whole. That means the development of the child in terms of mental, physical, emotional, academic needs has to be taken into account. So that is very, very important. And let me tell you, the curriculum that the NEP, the pedagogy and the curriculum that NEP is laying stress on is not only about EVS, but it is about all the subjects. So yes, but since I'm talking to you about EVS, that means we have to make it, we have to teach EVS in such a way that it is overall development of the child integrated. Integrated means it should be a combination of your social sciences, your sciences, and your environmental sciences. About your environment, about the basic science, and about the basic social sciences, that is history, geography, and civics. So that is what. So we have to make it inclusive. enjoyable. Now, how can we make it enjoyable? We can make EVS enjoyable, and there are variety of hands-on activities, experiments, excursions, outings that you can engage your children in. And engaging means when you are in the class, like right now we are having the online classes, but during the online classes also we can engage them to a very big extent, and if we really are into it. So this is a short thing that I've told you about NEP. Now, this is something I feel that you all are aware about, that the stakeholders, the basic stakeholders in the teaching learning process. Now, we all know that teaching learning process, the major stakeholders are the student, the teacher, the parent, and the school. Student, why? Because the student is at the receiving end. And this is the thing, the teaching learning process impacts a student's life. So if we give a lot of importance and weightage to our curriculum and the way of imparting education to the students, it is definitely going to make a difference in a child's life. Then we have the teacher. The teacher, why? Because the presence of a teacher makes uh, a difference, makes all the difference in a child's life. If this, you all must have seen that if a teacher is very, very interactive, very, very helpful, very, very assistive, so what happens? The child is more inclined towards that teacher and enjoys learning more in that subject. So a teacher plays a major role in the teaching learning process. Then we have the parents. Why the parents? Because the parents, they are the ones who support their children in the teaching learning process. If they are there for their child, whether it is good or bad, that enables a child to learn better. And definitely I've seen, whenever there is a combination of the school, the parent, the teacher, and the student, like when all four of them are working together, we definitely are going to see a lot of change in the teaching learning process and in the improvement of the child. So this is a very important part. And school, because school is a very major stakeholder, because obviously the student, the teacher, and the parents, they all are dependent on the school for the development of that particular child who has been given for 13 to 14 years of their education. So it's very important that we take all the initial years of teaching at a very, very serious note. Now, while we are teaching EVS, there's certain things like EVS or English or like other subjects also, but right now, EVS, now the qualities, the things that we need to develop in our children. That is express, enquire, establish, and explore. Now, whenever you have a class and you allow children to express their views, if you're discussing something and you allow them to express their views, you will find a lot of like a give and take going on in the class. Like the children are going to express their views, and the teacher is going to give them a yes or a no. The other children will also participate in that, and that will give rise to a healthy conversation. So we should give the children the freedom to express their views, their ideas in the class. And that should not be taken, but let me tell you one thing, yes, it should be done in a very organized manner, that there should not be any chaos in the class. Enquire. Now, if you're teaching the children something, so what you have to do is let the children express, and let them, if you give them any answer, let them inquire. Okay, what is the answer, the correct answer? Let them reach to that, the correct answer, not only mug up or just rote learning. Then we have the establish. Healthy discussions can lead to a certain outcomes that can do really, really, that can be very, very healthy. So healthy discussions in the classroom can lead to a outcome that can be healthy, and that has the contribution of all the children in the class. So that way the children enjoy more and they are able to contribute more, and they feel yes, they have been a partner in coming to a certain answer. Explore. Now you can give the children to explore certain dimensions. If you're talking about water, or if you're talking about trees, if you're talking about the types of plants, if you're talking about animals, let them find out. Okay, how many, like if they would want to explore certain things like water, okay, give them a chart so that they can prepare a chart, okay, where different places the water can be used, what are the different ways the water can be saved, what are the different ways of saving rainwater. So let them explore and find out and come to a certain conclusion. Now, inclusion, that is what I'm saying. Inclusive learning is basically like being a teacher. You have to be very, very careful that when you're teaching a class of 40 children, you have to understand that inclusion means you have to include each and every child. That means with a class of 40, we have to decide, we have to divide the children, that how many of them will be learning in a normal teaching learning process, how many of them will be learning through activities, how many of them will be learning in a different way of pedagogy, like the pedagogy has to be different. So this is a total chart, and this I have taken from our board, which is this. You are like, if you go through the CBSE websites and everything, you'll find so much of content on inclusive learning, on experiential learning, and that really helps you a lot. So this is the inclusion for teachers. Now, if you see, it has been given in the alphabetical manner, like A, all means well. That means all the children in the class are perfectly okay. Behavior is communication. Choice, be a behavior detective. Everyone starts together. Fair means everyone getting their needs met. Child honoring, growth mindset, independence, joyful learning. Now, joyful learning is a very important aspect of teaching learning. You have to make your class so happy, so joyful, so interactive that the children enjoy whatever content you are doing. Then kids can do well if they can. Lead with strengths, open mindedness, movement breaks, needs based, plan and purpose, question unexpected behavior, why now, relationship, self regulation, assist, assistive technology, unconditional positive regard, visuals, words make worlds, time, and zone of proximal development. So, this is the ABC of inclusion of teachers. So this is something that we need to, if we want an inclusive environment in our classroom, we need to take care of each and every child in the class and the needs of each and every child in the class. That is very, very important, because then what eventually happens, we talk to the parents, we could keep complaining to the parents, ki your child is not understanding, but are we evaluating our teaching methodology? Are we assessing that what exactly are we teaching? Is it accessible to that child? So inclusion means the teaching learning process has to be in such a way that it has to be planned in such a way, keeping all types of children in the class. What is EVS? This we have already done. EVS stands for Environmental Studies. In simple terms, it is the study of the relation between the organisms and its environment, the living things, the people which are living in the environment. The subject assists children to understand how things work and interact in their surroundings, learning in the environment, learning about the environment, and learning for the environment. Now, learning in the environment means we are living in an environment where we have to observe and understand our surroundings. Then that is how we learn about the environment. Then learning for the environment means how to go in for a sustainable development, how to save things which are given by the environment to us, by nature to us. Now, this is what is EVS. Relevance of studying the subject. Now, what is the importance? This is the importance, like we have to make our children aware about about their surroundings in which they are living, about the natural, social, and cultural environment. And this also helps in learning about different concepts in an integrated manner through various activities related to daily life experiences, like use of water, use of food, then we have use of transport, people who are living around them, in sciences, different parts of the body, different types of food we eat, then visits. It helps in learning through the environment. It emphasizes inculcation of values, attitudes, and skills related to the protection of the environment. Obviously, once we are studying EVS, we are becoming aware about our environment. We are becoming sensitive towards our environment. So it develops ethics, values, and our attitudes uh, towards looking at different things changes. So that is something very, very important. It enhances curiosity and creativity in relation to their surroundings. Obviously, children become more curious and they try to create things out of which they can do something better for their surroundings. So, that is something very, very important. If a child is not interested, not curious, and not creative, we cannot develop interest in that particular subject. Mother, like we can say, necessity is the creation, okay, is the mother of invention. That is what, if you're curious, then only you are able to invent. It develops an appreciation for diversity in the environment. Obviously, we know that our environment is very diverse, and it develops an appreciation, the different types of trees, the different types of animals, the different types of birds, the different types of people. So it is a diverse situation. Children start adjusting themselves by studying the subject in a very, very appropriate manner. Learning objectives, obviously, the importance and the learning objectives. Major learning objectives of EVS learning are as follows: to develop skill and attitudes necessary to understand the relationship between humans, culture, and biophysical surroundings of life; to inculcate holistic approach to environment. Holistic approach, like we had a discussion, what is a holistic approach? Like overall development, right? The mental, physical, emotional, educational approach to environment, which deals with exploring possibilities of coexistence of all the beings on earth. This is EVS is something which is very, very important because we became sensitive and aware about the people who are living with us on this planet Earth. To promote active participation of children in the protection of the environment and rational use of resources. Now, this is like something very important. You all must have seen a few commercials on the TV in which we have seen that energy saving energy, right? Saving petrol. So that is one advertisement was there in which the child is sitting with the father and he can see that cars are honking and there is a lot of noise everywhere, and his father is standing and his car is the engine is switched on and he's not switching it off. So eventually that child says, he, when the future times, like in future we will not be left with anything, like uh, there will be no further petrol which is like we can put in use when we are there in the future. So that is something, if we like we if we make our children aware about the importance of the things that have been given to us and about their rational use, definitely we can make our students very, very aware and very, very sensitive to their surroundings. To expose students to real life world, natural and social, in which they live. To develop an understanding of the prevailing and the future environments. Now, we have different approaches. Okay, we have different approaches to the teaching and learning of EVS. theme based and integrated approach, child centered approach, spiral approach to learning, holistic approach to learning, social constructivist approach, values and life skills. So these are the different approaches, and I'll just quickly brief them out. Theme based and integrated approach. Now, what do you mean by theme based and integrated approach? Theme based and integrated approach means when we are teaching EVS, it has to be a combination, like it is a combination of science and social sciences. And when we are talking to children about basic things like food, water, animals, it has to be a combination of both. So basically, if we take our classes which are theme based, so what happens, things become more interesting and children are able to comprehend better and they are able to connect better. Child centered approach. Now, when we want to follow a child centered approach, we have to see that we are moving from something like you all must have seen, I feel, you must have noticed. Nowadays, we have a few booklets also coming in which we have the worksheets, which are easy concept, then medium concept, and then difficult concept. So similarly, this is the child-centered approach. Whenever we are teaching something to the children, we need to be very, very clear that when we are starting a chapter, it has to be started from something which is simple, then we go to a little higher level, and then we go to a much higher level. So it has to be a child-centered approach. Now, spiral approach to learning. Spiral approach. Now, spiral means something which is which is multidimensional, you can say. Like whenever we are teaching something, it has to be in a different sets of learning parameters. Like it can be your jigsaw puzzles, it can be your quizzes, it can be diagrams, it can be concept maps, it can be the other exercises that we have in the book. But definitely we need to have a different concept of approach towards the teaching and learning of EVS. Holistic approach, like we said, holistic means it has to be an overall approach to learning in which the child is able to develop and understand itself, is able to learn and understand everything in a very proper manner. Now, social constructivist approach. Now, planning lessons. When we are planning our lessons, we have to see that the new learning, whatever they are learning, like whatever their previous knowledge is, and whatever they're learning now, and whatever is going to be like the things which are going to change in the future also, we have to give them a balance, a little bit of touch of everything. Whatever their previous knowledge is, whatever their present knowledge is, and whatever things are going to be a few changes that might occur in the future. And then values and life skills. I feel everyone is very much aware about values and life skills because this is a very important aspect. Whenever we are teaching EVS, values and life skills is a very, very important part of the teaching learning process, because life skills and values, these are the things that remain with you throughout your life. So we have to inculcate these skills in the children with the utmost efforts. That is something very, very important. Now, strategy and pedagogy. Now, let's come to the teaching. How we can teach EVS in a very effective manner. It is said that to be an effective teacher, to be able to communicate well, we should use a mixed approach, that is a combination of teaching and learning methods. Now, selecting an appropriate method of teaching depends on two key factors: the nature of content being transacted and dealt with in the class. The second important factor which we should consider while deciding on a teaching learning method is the preferred learning style of your students. So this we have already discussed, that whatever topic you are trying to teach in the class, whatever topic you're trying to discuss in the class, it has to be talk to the children in a manner that they are able to understand that what are they being like, whatever is being talked about. And the second important factor which I told you that it has to be an inclusion, an inclusive learning in which all the children of your class understand whatever is being taught. So that is something very, very important that we need to keep uh, all the students in the class in mind. Now, we have a few methods of teaching EVS. Methods of teaching EVS. First is the observation method, creative expressions, small group discussions, projects for EVS, visits for learning, and problem solving. Now, these are the 6 methods with which we can, and there might be many, many more. If you really want to do something positive for your children, please, you can discover and you can learn more. There are there are several methods of teaching EVS, and we just have to work upon them. So now, after this, I'll be explaining you one by one. This is one more thing, that for both online and offline delivery of lessons, you can use the different toolkit. It can be puppets, it can be flashcards, it can be a model. If you want to show something to the children, please create a model, and you can show them deforestation, you can show them floods, you can show a dam. There's so many things you can make your online teaching also very, very interesting. Then technology, obviously, right now, like nowadays, ever since the COVID pandemic, we have been using the technology. And so technology, you use technology to the best of the interest of the children. Make it interesting. You can make nice videos. You can make funny videos. You can make videos of small, small experiments, which you can send to the children. And you can make your class interesting. Now we come to the observation method, the different types of teaching EVS. Now, observation. Observation means when we are looking at something and we are trying to observe something which is which we are able to see and which we are able to observe and we are able to write down. Like it is said that one of the ways in which the infant learners learn is by observation. Observation is something very, very, is a very good technique if you want your children to learn well. Examples of using observation methods. Now, trees of life and clouds. Now, if you want your children to learn through observation, give them a small example of a tree. Let the child observe. You can give them 2 different types of tree and tell them to observe the difference. Just note down the difference between these two. Then the different clouds. What different clouds are, like how the clouds are formed. You can show them a small picture and you can ask them and you can explain them that this is how the water cycle, like how the water cycle takes place and how the clouds are formed. And related to this, I'll be giving you an example in the form of a small picture also. So advantages, what are the advantages? When we are seeing something, we are learning more. Instead of just the teacher delivering the lesson and we are able to just listen and maybe we are not able to imbibe so much as we are able to do while we are observing certain things. So what are the advantages of this method? Encourage children to explore the environment, develop observational skills, encourage students to see, think, and establish connections, and the knowledge acquired is from real and concrete situations and objects. That means concrete situations. They're able to visualize those, they're not able to visualize, they are able to see those things right in front of them, and then they're able to reach to a conclusion which is concrete, which they are able to understand. Why are they noting down these observations, and their understanding becomes much, much better. Creative expressions. Now, creative expressions. This is something which is creative, which can emerge from the mind of a child. If you give them a chance, let them come up with their own explanations, with their own creative ideas, and let them come up and explain this in the class. And that way they'll be encouraged to observe more, and they'll be encouraged to further experiment, further look for things which they can learn and they're able to express more in the class. Like, all children love to be creative if and when given a chance. It is also important to nurture young children's creativity through a rich learning environment of visual and performance of arts. Thus, lessons can be planned accordingly. So, whenever we are planning our lessons, we have to keep in mind that whatever lessons we are planning, we should give some space or a specific period for the children to be creative and to be able to express their ideas in the class. Now, it can be a stamp, a small stamp they can make, making posters, collages, model making. This is all creative expressions. That is why you must have noticed that there are so many competitions coming up in which they are encouraging people to experiment and to come up with new ideas and new expressions and create something which is going to be beneficial for the society in future. Small group discussions. Now, this is another very important method of teaching EVS. Like, what we can do is, when if we have a class of 30 children, we can divide them into small groups and let them find out, let them go and look for certain things in which they'll be able to come up with certain things which are going to be like important for the discussions in the class. If they have a group of children, let them divide their tasks amongst their group and then come up with certain important facts which can be discussed in the class along with the teacher. Now, group discussions is one of the techniques that can facilitate cooperative learning among children. Learners can be organized in small groups to discuss important environmental themes. Some of them are: should fast food be sold in school canteen? Is circus cruelty to animals? Now, these are small things that they need to keep in mind, and such type of there are innumerable questions that you can give to the children on which they can work, and they can do research and find out facts which can help them in compiling up their report. Now, projects for EVS. Now, the projects. This is one thing very important. This I have seen in a few programs also, and this I think I think so. We should also imbibe in our teaching system. Like in Western countries, what do they have? They are giving them credits for the projects that they are doing, right? And the projects are not only for the files that you're making, for the sheets that you're preparing, for the models that you're making. They are for the actual work that they are doing in the society. And that campaign or a small project or a small session is planned by the school, in which the children are sent to different spots for like cleanup campaigns, for awareness drives. So this is something I know we need to take permission from the parents, but it is very important. So we need to take up such campaigns in which the children are doing real work, and they should be given points on that, not only for the files that they are making or only for the small models that they are creating. Because eventually we know, yes, the parents are helping them, but definitely we should take them to real life projects in which they will learn a lot of things. Collaborative learning is the process of getting two or more students to work together to learn. Project involves a series of activities executed in real life context. So this is something which should be taken up, and it is a very good project in which the children will definitely learn a lot, and they will enhance their abilities as young learners. So example of a project is cleanup campaigns. Advantages: the experience is real life based and hence lasts longer with the learners. Obviously, when we are doing something physically and we are doing something like going to that specific place and we are doing it physically, then definitely that thing lasts with us longer. Children enjoy freedom to work in social environment and also develop cooperative feeling. Now, investigative project can be another project we can give, ways to conserve water. We can take them to different places where the rainwater harvesting is done. We can show them how the water is conserved. So different projects like this can come up, in which we are able to teach our learners, teach our learners in a better environment and in a bit better manner. Now, visits for learning, this is what we said. We can take them for different visits, and different activities can be planned for the children so that they are able to learn. Like visits to zoos, gardens are part of school life, yet often such visits are just picnics. Recognizing the educational opportunities in such trips can make these picnics into more joyful learning opportunities. Properly planned out of class experiences can develop several skills like observation, investigation, monitoring, mapping, collecting data, critical thinking, and problem solving. Now, when we are taking our children for learning visits, like for learning outcomes, we if we are taking them a zoo, obviously they enjoy, they go out for a picnic, they enjoy, they observe different animals. But definitely if we take them to more different places like a fruit market, a bank, a bakery, we can ask them to prepare a report. A small sheet of questionnaire can be given to the children, on the basis of which they can prepare a report. Like they went to the fruit market, how many different types of fruits they observed, what were the colors of the different fruits, and divide them into citrus and sweet fruits. Like visit to a bakery, what kind of different kinds of chocolates did they observe, what kind of different type of pastries did they observe. So it is going to develop that investigation, thinking, monitoring, mapping, and they will be able to collect data, and they will be able to compile up into a proper report. So this is something very important. Problem solving. Now, problem solving, obviously, if you give them a problem, and you will find that the children, they come up with beautiful solutions. Like problem-based learning is a method aimed to help the students in arriving at a solution to a given set of problems. Now, what are we doing? If we give them a problem, we can ask them, the day water does not come in your house, or the day there is some problem with your water pump, what happens? The submersible pump, what happens? So the problems that they face during that day. So we can explain them the importance of water. Like we can ask them, you can just compare and connect two areas. Like if your friend's area, or the house where your friends live, they have more plants and more trees, and wherever you are living or your house has lesser trees and lesser plants. So what is the difference? What difference do you notice? So let the children understand the problem and then come to a conclusion. This is what we are feeling when we see less trees or less plants in our house, and when we go to my friend's house, we see this is the difference. So that is something very important. So if we give a problem to the children, you will get beautiful answers from them. So this technique is also a very good technique for empowering our children. Okay, now we come lesson planning, the very important part of teaching EVS. The model of lesson planning, something which is what we have, the four components: prior knowledge, new knowledge, application, and assessment. Now, this is something, this I had already told you, that when we are planning our lesson, we always, whenever we are discussing in the class, we should always talk to the children about their prior knowledge about the subject, and the knowledge that they are having at the present, and whatever they're going to learn in the future. And then only we can build on our lesson. And this is the integrated approach, that whenever we are teaching EVS, we always need to take into account different approaches of teaching of EVS, like the life sciences, information technology, the physical sciences, numerical skills, arts education, language and communication, social and culture, and earth sciences. Now, what is exactly meant by this? That means whenever we are teaching a subject, always we need to keep an intercurriculum approach of teaching the subject. Like whenever we are teaching EVS, we should always talk to children about, find out what is the percentage of forests covering our percentage of forests covering India. So that means they have to find a numerical approach. That means a mathematical approach. They have to find out the percentage. What is the numerical? Find out the percentage of forest being cut down. So that way we have to have a inter curricular approach to the teaching of a subject. So that is how we term it as integrated approach. Now, while we are planning a lesson, everyone knows how to make a lesson plan, and this we have been doing ever since we have been into teaching. But there has been a lot of changes over the years, and we have to be very, very, like, the more effective a lesson plan is, the more effective your teaching is going to be. So, first of all, the content, the learning objectives, the ice-breaking activity, prior knowledge, teaching learning materials, lesson procedure, assessment method, recapitulation or lesson reflection. Now, these are a few things. And I am sure that most of you must be aware about all the words that we have used here, all like the content. Obviously, the content that you're going to teach, it has to be properly there in the form of notes. Learning objectives. What are the objectives of teaching that specific chapter? Ice-breaking activity. That means in order to to make the class more informal, to make the children more to make the children enjoy more, we have to have an activity so that we are able to explain to the children what is coming for them. Prior knowledge, obviously after that we can talk to them about the prior knowledge of that special topic that we are going to teach. Teaching learning materials, that we are talking about the different the material, the different your things that we use for the teaching. Okay, so that is the teaching learning materials. It can be in the form of a chart, it can be in the form of a model, then it can be in the form of a concept map, it can be in the form of a video. So this is something very, very important. Lesson procedure, how would you start with the lesson and how would you conclude it? Assessment methods, now assessment methods we all know, different types of assessments we use for EVS also. It can be a jigsaw puzzle, it can be a quiz, it can be a method assessment, can be a simple MCQ based multiple choice questions, and recapitulation or lesson reflection. That means in the end we should always go in for the main points of the lesson, in which we are able to recapitulate and we are able to assess, we are able to understand how much the children have understood. Experiential learning, now this is, we already know about it, something which we learn by doing. So this is a small example I have given. Think of any fruit, discuss in a group and fill up the following columns. Like you can talk to the children by, like if you're teaching them types of fruits or the food we eat. So you can think of any experiential learning technique, describe it, compare it with something similar, associate it, analyze it, apply it, argue it. So this is something how they are going to come in. This is how they learn by doing. Experiential learning, another role-playing method. Now, if you're teaching them planets, you can ask them to be different planets, the different qualities that the planets have. They can come up in the class and they can present themselves. Our neighborhood, different types of people who are helping us in the neighborhood, different type of places that we have a neighborhood, they can all come up and they can introduce. So this is experiential learning, learning by doing. Now, something very interesting, something which is very new also I feel for everyone, creating a bio poem. Now, bio poem is something which can be created for a thing, a person, a place. And that way what happens, the children are able to connect to it. Like in this, it's a small example that I've given. I am a tree, the sea, a bird in the sky, the flower in the field, the forest, etc. They can choose anything. If you're talking to them about nature, or if you're talking to them about important people in the history, they can pick up. We can have a person also, we can have a thing also, we can have a place also. So like if I say I am a tree, I give shade, but people come and cut me and it makes me sad, could you help me please? Now when they're creating a poem like this, what happens, they're able to connect to it. So that way what happens, they're able to realize the importance of trees in their neighborhood. So this is something, a new thing which you all can try in your class, and definitely it's going to give a good result. Now, two approaches for assessment strategies. Now, this is a very famous saying, this you all must have heard also. According to Benjamin Franklin, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So this is something very, very important. So whenever we are assessing our children also, we have to be very, very careful. How do we assess them? Now there are two forms of assessment. One is the traditional form of assessment and second is the new form of assessment. Traditional form of assessments, we come to normal tests, spelling tests, dictations, formative assessments, summative assessments, exams. New forms of assessment, we come in the form of projects, critical assessment, critical thinking, experiential learning. So these are all different new forms of assessment that we should definitely involve in our assessment process. Assessment of learning. Now, how we are going to assess our children? The teacher may use oral, written, and performance modes to assess child's learning. Assessment refers to different tools and techniques employed by a teacher to evaluate her students. This evaluation is important to gather information, awareness for the following. Now, why do we assess a child? First of all, we need to understand that the child has understood the learning, the chapter. What are the strengths of the learner? Whether the child has understood the chapter. So, what all qualities, what all topics are which are very, very clear to the learner? What is the weakness? What are the topics in which the child has not understood? Then the unique learning needs of a learner. Definitely, we have different types of children in a class. So we need to understand how many children have to be taught in a different manner. Then how to track the progress of a learner. That means how much the children or how much the child has understood. Now, this is how we collect the feedback for the learning, teaching, progress, and the methods that we have employed for our children to learn. Assessment of the learner, obviously, this is one strategy. And the first one is that 3-2-1 strategy, in which the things that new that he has learned, second, the interesting things which he found in the chapter, and any queries or the questions that the child may still have. So that we have to look into. This is comprehension-based assessment. This is something, see, if you're teaching them anything related to the environment, I have taken a small poem in which we can see that they have given different things about how to save water, how to keep our earth clean, how to reduce, reuse, and cycle, how can we reuse certain things. So this is a beautiful way to assess your children. Once they read the poem, they will enjoy the poem, they will understand the importance of environment, of the environment, plus the questions will analyze and assess their skills. So this is a very good way of assessment. Now, this is another story-based assessment that we have. See, this is one thing that I was trying to tell you, that we can give our children beautiful stories. We can make stories. We can come up with beautiful stories to which they are connected, like the cartoons we have. Like here we have given the story for the water cycle. We can have a beautiful story about Nemo. Nemo, that is a beautiful movie. I hope Finding Nemo, and that is such a beautiful story. We can come up with a small story of Nemo, that she's living in the water and she can see so many things which are dirty. The water is dirty. So many things have been thrown into the water, and she's trying to communicate to the children. So I feel if you try to come up and conjure a beautiful story, you will find that the children are connecting in a much better manner, and they're understanding the concept to a great extent. Now we can see here that we can see the picture, and we can ask the children to describe what they can see in the first picture. Then we can see what they can see in the second picture. Then we come to the third picture, and then we can see the fourth picture. First, they can see that the sun is there and the water droplets. Then they can feel the heat and the water droplets will start going up. Then the second part of the assessment, see when the droplets go up and we can see the clouds being formed. And then the droplets are happy that now I am a cloud. And now we all are going to be down on the earth again in the form of rain droplets. So this is a story that we can narrate to our students, and the students will be able to understand it in a much, much better manner. So these are the different approaches that we need to keep in mind once we are imparting a lesson to the children in the class. This is something very, very important. Now, we come to the activity-based technique. Now, if we want children to learn something by doing, so this is something very, very important. Give them something which is going to be very, very creative for them. Now, they must be getting newspapers in their house, in their homes. So you can ask them, okay, now this is the rainy season going on, and you can just compare the minimum and the maximum temperature day wise, and they can record those temperatures in a chart, and they can submit into the they can submit in the class, and they can share what do they understand, why was there so much of humidity in the atmosphere. And with the water cycle, you can connect this activity based technique, so the children will be able to understand better why the rainfall occurs and what is the temperatures, how do we note down the temperatures, what do we write, how it is recorded. So these are different things if we can involve in our learning teaching methodology. Investigative technique. Now, investigative technique means it can be a group project that we have already discussed, the different types of technique. Now, I have given you small examples so that you all understand. The class can be divided into 4 equal groups. Each group will be given a festival, and the group will investigate the various aspects of the festival, like how did the festival start, how is it celebrated, where is it celebrated in India, what is its importance in Indian history, is there a mythological story behind it. Now, this is a project, and there can be innumerable projects on which a group of children can work, and they can come up with a proper project, with a proper report, which they can submit in the class. See, that is what I've been saying ever since from the beginning. Like, if we create awareness in our children from the very beginning, from the initial years, we can be very proud, and we can get young children who are going to be young environmentalists in the future. Like we have Greta Thunberg, she's from Sweden, you must have heard about her. And we have Likpriya Kanjuman, India. And there are innumerable names, there are so many names, different names, which you find. That means the young children are becoming aware about their surroundings, and they're coming to the forefront to change their environment, to change the ways the people are living, and to change the ways we are using our planet. And this is how we can look forward to a beautiful and a sustainable growth if we prepare our generation from today for a better tomorrow. So this is something very, very important. I hope everyone has enjoyed the session today, and it has been wonderful for me to be here, and it was a wonderful platform. Though I feel that I could have shared many more things with you, but definitely it was wonderful being here for 1 hour and being able to interact with you all. I hope you all also enjoyed the session. And my heartfelt thanks to Kriti Prakashan, Digi Nurture, Himanshu ji, and Urja, which has been there for giving a platform for all the teachers to take up training and to develop themselves into much, much better educationists. And eventually, I thank Farzana ma'am for giving me this platform to be able to interact with you all, to be able to put down my ideas and my views and my teaching methodologies, which I have learned over the years, and to be able to connect to you on this beautiful platform. Thank you, Farzana ma'am, and thank you, everyone. Have a nice day and